Hey everyone, and welcome to Pod4 Journal Club. Today we're diving into a really cool new paper that's asking a huge question for the future of AI. As we start using it to simulate all of human society, how do we stop it from just seeing us all as one single, average person?
Okay, let's just jump right in. Researchers are using these incredibly powerful AIs to build simulations of entire populations, which is amazing for social science. But what happens if the AI's whole picture of us is just wrong? What if it kind of assumes we're all pretty much the same?
The tech here is just wild. Scientists are creating what they're calling silicon samples. They're using large language models, like Llama 3, to act as digital stand-ins for real people in surveys. This could totally change the game for research, making it faster, cheaper, and letting us ask questions we never could before.
But, and this is a big but, there's a massive catch. The paper calls it the average persona problem. See, by their very nature, these AIs have a tendency to take all of humanity's amazing diversity, all our different opinions, our backgrounds, our quirks, and kind of squish it all down into one single, most likely average personality.
The researchers actually gave this a technical name, heterogeneity masking. It's a great term. It's what happens when the AI is so focused on giving the right or most probable answer that it completely papers over the real important differences between different groups of people. And this isn't just a small error. It could totally defeat the whole purpose of understanding a diverse society.
So what do we do about it? Well, this is where the paper gets really clever. It looks at a potential solution that's actually borrowed from the world of communication science, and it's all about understanding how to talk to different kinds of people.
The idea is called audience segmentation. So instead of just telling the AI, hey, act like a human, you give it a really specific, detailed character profile, a whole persona. The big question is, can giving the AI a well-built character sheet actually teach it to simulate the kind of diversity we see in the real world?
To put this to the test, the researchers basically became chefs. They came up with 6 different recipes for building these AI personas. And as you can see here, they tried a whole bunch of things, from a super basic profile with just age and gender, all the way up to this massive one with 59 different theory-based details. They also tried other approaches, like using statistics or even questions from a real survey.
So, to see which recipe worked best, they gave each AI simulation a really tough 3-part exam. Think of it like a report card. First up, distributional fidelity. Does the big picture of public opinion look right? Second, structural fidelity. Does it correctly capture the differences between groups? And third, predictive fidelity. Does it get the why, the connection between who a person is and what they believe?
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting. When they got the grades back from the AI's exam, the results were not at all what you might expect.
Your first thought is probably, well, of course more detail is better, right? The more information you give the AI, the more accurate it's going to be. That's just common sense. But let's see what the data actually showed.
So if we look at these charts, something fascinating pops out. The chart on the left is measuring how far off the AI's answers were from reality, so a lower bar is better. And you can see a really nice drop when they went from a super simple profile to one with a moderate amount of detail. So yeah, a little bit of detail definitely helps a lot.
But, and this is the core finding, when they pushed it even further to that super detailed profile, the performance actually got worse sometimes. You can see it right here in this other chart, which measures how well the AI understood the map of different social groups. A higher bar here is worse, and you can see that throwing too much information at the AI actually made it less accurate.
So here it is, the first major finding. More is not always better. Just blindly piling on information can actually be a bad thing. It seems to introduce a bunch of noise that just confuses the AI, and ironically, makes it worse at understanding the subtle relationships between different groups.
And this points to a really elegant principle the researchers call informative parsimony. I love that phrase. It's basically a less is more philosophy. The key isn't the sheer amount of detail, it's the relevance. A few really well-chosen, powerful details are way better than a mountain of junk.
These maps are such a great way to see what's going on. The colorful crosses are where real human groups are, and the dots are where the AI placed them. The goal, of course, is to get the dots to land right on top of the crosses. And you can just see with your own eyes that some of the leaner, more focused recipes created a map that looks a lot more like reality.
Okay, so this leads to the next big question. If it's not about how much detail you throw in, does it matter how you choose those details in the first place? Is there a right or a wrong way to build one of these personas?
Oh, absolutely. The logic you use matters a ton. This table shows that different strategies were good at different parts of that 3-part exam.
For instance, using survey questions was best for just getting the overall shape of public opinion right. But using a data-driven approach was better for understanding the structure between groups. It's like a toolbox. There's no single best tool. It's about picking the right one for the job you need to do.
So let's bring all this together. Let's look at the main conclusion of the study, which is just such a powerful message for anyone who's working in this space. This quote from the paper just nails it. It says, simulation performance depends less on identifier quantity than on the theoretical or empirical relevance of the identifiers used. In other words, it's about quality, not quantity. Smart, thoughtful design is always going to beat brute force. Now, to their credit, the authors are really upfront about the limitations here. Even with the very best persona recipes, all the AIs still showed something called residual over-regularization. Basically, their answers were still a little too neat, a little too clean and predictable. They struggled to capture the full, messy, sometimes contradictory reality of how real people think.
So, what's the big picture here? What should we all take away from this really fascinating deep dive into the mind of an AI simulator, and where do we go from here?
All right, here are the key points to remember. 1. Brute force is not the answer. 2. Thoughtful design is everything. The why behind the data you choose is critical. 3. AIs don't just see diversity on their own. We have to actively teach them to see it. And finally, 4. We desperately need better yardsticks to measure if we're even succeeding at this.
And that's really the paper's call to action. They're saying future research needs to focus on two big things: building new ways to measure that are specifically aware of this diversity problem, and, maybe even more importantly, building new AI models from the ground up that are designed to preserve human variety, not to average it away.
And this leaves us with this final, really provocative thought to chew on. The ultimate challenge here isn't just about getting the right answer on a survey. It's about teaching these incredible new tools to move beyond the average and to actually begin to understand and reflect the rich, complex, messy, and beautiful diversity that truly makes us human.